Fox 31 and Channel 2 present this special, honoring Black history.
Overcoming adversity.
Being in spaces and rooms and I'm the only one that looks like me.
Paving the way for the future.
They were like the Tuskegee Airmen. They had to be better than everybody else.
Making room for ourselves.
I wanted a safe space for Black and brown bodies.
Using our voices to inspire.
It's so hard to really understand what another person experiences, right? And poetry allows us to get really creative with language.
Here in Colorado and beyond.
It feels like a gift from God.
Hello, I'm Shawl Turner.
And I'm Talia Cunningham. Welcome to our 2024 Black History Special, where we are honoring Colorado's Black excellence.
And you know, 5 Points has roots that run deep, girl, you know that.
They sure do.
And there's one original place that's still standing strong decades later.
That's right, it's one of a kind in the metro area, an all-Black firehouse. Now we are taking a look at how Fire Station 3 is still going strong, responding to your emergencies all these years later.
Once referred to as the Harlem of the West, today the 5 Points neighborhood is filled with bustling transit, new housing, restaurants, and reminders of its rich history. But if you lived in 5 Points before the 1960s and had an emergency or a fire sparked, who would answer your call for help?
Firehouse number 3 was a cornerstone in the Black community.
That would be the men of Station 3, Denver's first and only all-Black firehouse that's still standing today. Located on Washington Street, it's the oldest and smallest fire station in Denver, operating since 1931. It may be small with just one bay, but this brick building is an anchor of Denver's history.
Black firefighters have made significant contributions to the Denver Fire Department and to the Denver residents for over 100 years.
Station 3 was segregated. It was the only Denver firehouse open to African-American firefighters until 1957, when the department desegregated during the Civil Rights Movement.
It went from colored to Negro to Black to African-American, so depending on the decade or the era.
For Renee Cousins King, it's personal. Her late father, Charles Cousins, was a Station 3 firefighter in the 1940s. And her late uncle, Nathan Biffle, was one of the department's first Black captains.
They were like the Tuskegee Airmen. They had to be better than everybody else.
A message of camaraderie and strength that Beatrice Griffin echoes.
Even in the midst of segregation, even in the midst of Ku Klux Klan, even in the midst of all of the adversities that went along with the times, we held our head high.
The valor, bravery, and commitment runs in her blood.
That's my dad. My father, Sidney Joseph Freelo, was a fireman in Station 3 during the 1930s when it was totally segregated.
You look so much like your dad.
That's what I've been told. He loved it. He absolutely loved his job.
Sidney Freelo was with Station 3 for 4 years, but was forced to retire after a terrible accident. In 1938, Engine 3 and another engine collided while responding to a fire. 2 firefighters were killed, several others hurt. Griffin's father suffered a severe head injury, shattering his dream.
You put your life on the line, and you're proud to do it. It really kind of broke his heart because it was a dream that I don't even think he knew he could have.
This was a replica of the fire truck that was in the accident in 1938.
From past to present, Station 3 firefighters climbed the ladder so others, like Roderick Janelle, could.
I stand on the shoulders of a lot of firefighters that worked at Station 3. Notice the uniforms.
Now retired, but with the highest honor. Janelle is Denver's first Black fire chief.
I was 29 years on the department here in Denver. Couldn't have made it 29 years as fire chief.
From firefighter in 1976 to chief in 2001, he worked his way through the ranks, but it wasn't easy with racial tensions.
There were individuals that did not want to see that, and I understood that.
Janelle says he was told he had a rare birth defect and couldn't join the department. He went to a doctor and turned out it wasn't true. He had to go to court just to prove people wrong.
You don't take these obstacles and let them stop you. you get over, under, around, or through any obstacle they put before you.
Pushing through adversity, he says serving his own community and being promoted to chief were his biggest accomplishments. But there's still a lot of work to be done.
I still don't see the number of firefighters of color.
As the next generation paves their way, Station 3 stands tall, a lasting symbol to the trailblazers who never gave up.
Fire Station number 3 represents a legacy of excellence in the Denver Fire Department.
Denver is home to one of the world's most noted musicians, breaking barriers for African Americans long before the civil rights movement of the 1950s and the 1960s. And today he's still inspiring musicians and young people around the world. I got a chance to sit down with Charlie Burrell.
The world moves pretty fast these days, but that's not a problem for Charlie Burrell. He has no intention of slowing down just yet.
Oh, I'm very young. I'm only 103.
Burrell has seen a lot of things change over the decades, like unimaginable sticker shock on automobiles.
When I was coming up, you could get an automobile for $17.
But one thing that'll never change, his love of classical music.
It's the sound. It has a beautiful sound.
Burrell is noted as the first African American to ever play in a major U.S. symphony. He's affectionately known as the Jackie Robinson of classical music. The bassist studied with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. In 1949, played with the Denver Symphony Orchestra and joined the San Francisco Symphony in 1959.
I had arrived at a pinnacle which very few people, or youngsters especially, had done. They don't say, hey boy, you know, or hey you. They say, Mr. Burrell. I said, oh my.
Burrell was only 12 years old when he knew his life would be dedicated to playing classical music.
I didn't pick it up, it picked me up. But I heard this particular sound and it got to me in a hurry.
Burrell, who is also a war veteran, is a Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award recipient, was inducted into the Colorado Music Hall of Fame, and in 2022, Aurora Public Schools opened the Charles Burrell Visual and Performing Arts Campus.
I can't believe that they would do such a thing.
He gives his mother the credit for his success.
My mother told me too, practice your butt off, son, and you'll probably get where you're going.
Heidi, 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 Heidi.
Heidi, 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 Heidi.
These days, Burrell is surrounded by fans like caretaker Alexandria Jackson, who had studied the classical icon in school.
The day I walked in this building and found out he was on my roster, I had a little bit of a heart flutter because I'm a big music history person and he's living history.
The most amazing show this musician has ever seen?
Jazz man whose name was Duke Ellington.
And the key to living past 100.
My exercise, be yourself. Just be kind and don't be a fool.
Burrell says this is the most important advice he can share with the world.
To learn how to get along with people and not get enthralled in hating.
And Charlie Burrell tells more about his incredible life and how he's inspiring people in his new book, Breaking the Color Barrier in Classical Music. We have a link to it at kdvr.com. Click on this story.
Several local museums celebrate Black history in Colorado. Here are some you can check out in the metro area. And speaking of talent, one woman is known to fix problems for those in the public eye.
Welcome back. A popular TV series features an African-American woman who fixes embarrassing little problems for politicians and celebrities. Well, Denver has its own fixer. Her name is Keo Frazier, and she's doing her best to change the world for the better.
Secrets, bad choices, a spotty history. Many people have something to hide, but those skeletons in the closet can destroy lives and careers for those who work in the public eye. They need a fixer. And that's where Keo Frazier comes in.
That one little negative thing gets suppressed or it goes away.
Fraser's 9 and 2 company is a leader in brand and reputation management.
Maybe you're a senator, or maybe you are an artist, or maybe you are an entertainer, and maybe once upon a time you had a conversation on your phone and someone recorded it. It continued to evolve with our compassion and our understanding of each other, but maybe 10 years ago you said something that wasn't relevant to today.
But Fraser has high standards for her clients, which are located across the nation. She helps those who want to work to make the world a better place. The Cornell University graduate created the New Thinkers Project to take on some of society's biggest challenges.
We're becoming a society of haves and have-nots.
The desire to make a difference in a big way all started when Fraser was a little girl.
I told my mother that I was going to go to Harvard Law School, drive a Lamborghini, and be the president of the United States. But what I've learned is that if I'm behind and you don't necessarily know that these are things that I'm doing, then I can make a bigger impact and the ripples are much larger.
And she has. Fraser is listed as one of the top 25 most powerful women in business by the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce, is among the Denver Business Journal's top 40 under 40, Go Magazine's leader of the pack, and the list goes on. But there have been plenty of challenges along the way.
Being in spaces and rooms and I'm the only one that looks like me, and the challenge in that is that I walk in the room with power and force and I belong there, and the challenge is always having to convince them that I belong there, because I know that I do.
Her biggest focus is now on giving back.
Representation matters so much, right? I remember when President Barack Obama was elected, I remember crying, and I remember also feeling a sense of relief that now I didn't have to tell people that I went to Cornell University. I didn't have to make sure that people knew that I belonged in the space. So it is important for me to be that same representation.
The avid art collector says this is her inspiration.
Fear and the perception of perfection are the most dangerous predators in our consciousness.
And she's offering this advice free of charge. Never put yourself in a position to have to use her services.
Trust your gut. Anything that you're doing out there and it feels like it should be behind closed doors, then it should be behind closed doors.
That's some good advice. Now, Keo just released a new book, Life Happens While You're Making Plans. We have a link to it at kdvr.com. Just click on this story. Okay, Talia, I am taking that advice.
We are taking that advice, Shaw. She is an incredible woman. Let's get to another incredible woman tonight. Her name is Allie Duncan, and she was one of the first Black female officers hired in Fort Collins, but that is not the only time she's made history. She is also the owner and teacher of one of Denver's only Black yoga studios, and as Aaliyah Sims explains, when Allie couldn't find the community she was seeking, she created it herself.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Lift and stretch, back and down.
Several times a week.
Squeeze them.
You can find Allie Duncan.
Bend those elbows.
Turning this space into a yoga oasis.
Offering those experiences that just open the eyes of the marginalized community, where they're just like, okay, this is healing and I have access to it.
Her wellness center, Urban Sanctuary, sits on Welton Street in Denver's historically Black Five Points neighborhood.
3, 2, 1, time. Shake it out.
Duncan opened the center in 2016 after noticing a lack of diversity at other yoga studios.
No places where I saw a lot of Black and brown bodies on the mat, and so I stopped asking why. Why aren't there these spaces? And I just created Urban Sanctuary.
Duncan grew up on a farm in Fort Collins and was the first Black female police officer with the force for a decade.
I got the summer off, my husband would watch the kids, and I flew to India, and I was there for 2 months, and I got certified in yoga.
6 months later, after she got back, she quit and found her true calling.
The most powerful question is why. And when you take that why and you do it, everything's already laid out for you. So it's just trust. This is the journey that I want to be on.
Now, 7 years later,
let's round through the spine.
She purchased her building and is excited to see her dream become a reality.
It took me a while to build it up to get the Black community in. So we offer free classes to the BIPOC community. So 3 times a week we have full circles classes, and they're They're maxed out every night, and I love it.
Right there. She says you don't have to be an expert. She even showed me something easy you can do while just watching TV.
Bend your knees and plant your feet. And then put your hands behind you, and then just let your knees fall over, and that opens up your back.
Duncan says it's the feeling you get after walking in her doors that will make you feel like the urban sanctuary is your space.
I wanted a safe space for Black and brown bodies to come and do yoga because I love yoga, and I was like, oh, if I could have everybody experience, this movement, this breath.
Behind you, come all the way down.
More to come, a monumental moment in Colorado Springs history. Mayor Yemi Mobolade reflecting on his journey to America. Welcome back in, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. When Colorado Springs Mayor Yemi Mobolade assumed office, he made history by becoming the first elected Black and immigrant mayor to serve the city.
And Rhea Jha talked to him about his momentous accomplishments and how his culture influenced how he leads.
My earliest memories, my dad would always say the sky's the limit.
Reflecting on his momentous position, Colorado Springs Mayor Blessing Adeyemi Mobolade, or Mayor Yemi to most, acknowledges the weight of his role.
I have a job to do, which is the job of a mayor. I don't think about being a Black mayor. I don't think about being an immigrant mayor. But when I take a moment to stop and think, I remember. And I remember how incredibly profound it is.
Maybe because until he became a U.S. citizen 6 years ago, becoming mayor wasn't even a possibility for him.
Part of the immigrant story is it's all about hard work and work ethics and wanting a better life for your kids and your family members, and you just don't stop.
Mobolade was born and raised in Nigeria.
I grew up in a communal society. So when we say it takes a village, that word is an African proverb. And I saw that part of my upbringing was having lots of family members around me that were part of my development.
When he was 17, he packed his bags and headed to the U.S. to study at Bethel University, a small Christian liberal arts school in northern Indiana.
I had a very thick Nigerian accent. I remember being made fun of, so that stood out. When I began to realize part of my uniqueness, what makes Yemi Yemi, has to do with his origin, I began to lean into it.
Mobolade realizes that beyond being first, he embodies a beacon of hope for those who feel exactly like that boy with the thick Nigerian accent 27 years ago.
Take time to explore your unique identity, and the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit. The sky is the limit.
Straight ahead, a social media post led us to an award-winning poet.
Finally tonight, we have a special piece written exclusively for our special by a local poet and found by our producer, Destiny Gettis. Destiny, how did you find Susie Q?
Yeah, so I posted in a Facebook group called Black in Denver, and I ended up getting hundreds of responses, and I came across Susie.
This is so interesting because Denver is such a centerpiece of talent, especially with the arts, anything related to culture. And a lot of people don't realize that. It comes right out of 5 Points, but it comes all across Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what she did in this poem. Take a listen.
To be Colorado woman in black is to know that the road has been laid by hands made of wood, thick flesh, and resolve. From the pioneering hands of Clara Brown to the delivering hands of Dr. Justina Ford, we have learned how to wield our own. I am grateful to have been taught by many. For instance, from my grandmother and aunties, I learned how to speak up courageously. From the women at church, I learned how to pray with my whole body. From the beloved teachers in community, from the artists, from the organizers like Ashara Ekundayo and Cleo Parker Robinson, who opened doors and cracked windows, who made a way of no way, I have learned. From Opalonga Pugh, who showed us how to usher the secret words out of our mouths through the gaps between our teeth. How to sing and laugh generously, I have learned. How to handle a narrative and fall in love with myself fiercely. From these phenomenal women, some gone before I arrived, some still thriving among us, some who I have even walked alongside in this life, I have learned. How could I be anything less?
And here's a list of a few other Black award-winning and local poets in the state we connected with who are worth checking out.
Well, that is all for tonight, but I want to take a minute to thank our producer, Destiny Gettis,
Fascinating. You put together so much important and vital information about the history of the place where we live, Colorado.
Yeah, I have really enjoyed doing this. I've learned so much more about Colorado, and I'm so honored to be able to do this, and I cannot wait to continue doing this. Thank you so much, ladies.
Yeah, it was a great special. We had so much fun. Your first one and many more to come. And we want to thank you, the viewers at home, for welcoming us and allowing us to share Colorado's Black excellence. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.